Greetings and welcome to the University of Minnesota Alumni Association's webinar series. My name is Audra Ferrall and I'm the Director of International Alumni Networks and your host today. Thank you to all the students and alumni who have made time to join us live. This morning we'll be hearing from former international students who graduated from the College of Liberal Arts on their job search process and how they became employed. Also joining us are staff from the College of Liberal Arts Career Center and International Student and Scholar Services. Thank you to both of them for collaborating on this webinar. Participants are invited to ask questions throughout the webinar today by utilizing the chat options to submit their questions. Today's webinar is part of an ongoing free series being offered by the University of Minnesota Alumni Association, where we're having conversations with experts about career, life, and learning topics. Initiatives like this are made possible in part by our Alumni Association members, so thank you. Because of members, we can create powerful opportunities for students and our more than 477,000 alumni around the world. If you're interested in joining the Alumni Association, check us out at umnalumni.org/membership. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You have joined the presentation listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to listen over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane of your GoToWebinar panel, and dial-in information will be displayed. If you experience audio difficulties while listening via your computer speakers, this can be caused by having multiple software applications open, which can use up your computer's bandwidth and affect network performance. Listening in on a wireless signal may affect performance as well. Feel free to close any unnecessary applications on your computer. Questions are welcome and you may submit them at any time. Please type in your questions in the questions pane on your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll be monitoring them along the way, so please submit your questions, ideas, or tips. This is going to be a fun conversation and we want to hear from you. So again, my name is Audra Ferrall and I'm the Director of International Alumni and Travel at the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. So I'm the contact for all of the alumni living outside the U.S. and I help them to stay connected with the university and with each other. I'm also going to talk about the flow of the webinar today. So each of our host units, the Alumni Association, CLA Career Services, and ISSS, will be introducing themselves and their unit's resources to participants. Then I'll introduce our alumni panelists who will serve as our experts today. And then the panelists will answer questions, so feel free to type in your questions throughout the session. And we will end at 9 a.m. Central. So first of all, for the students who may not be aware of all the resources of the Alumni Association and what we're about, I'd like to just provide some highlights. So the Alumni Association is the organization that represents the graduates of the University of Minnesota. We enrich the lives of our 477,000 alumni living around the world and help them keep in touch with the university and with other alumni no matter where they're currently residing. We also exist to support student success. We want to help students fulfill their career aspirations, and we do this by supporting the mentorship program and offering webinars like this one. We also exist to advance the University of Minnesota. We want to ensure a strong and vibrant university for generations to come. To learn more about the ways we support our alumni and students, please visit our website, umnalumni.org. And this map shows where we currently have alumni networks all around the world and the U.S. So no matter where you go, after you graduate, you can connect with other graduates. So these are all the locations where Gophers get together on a regular basis. To connect with alumni in these cities and grow your network, visit the UMAA website and click on Networks. And now I'd like to introduce Amy Barton. She is the Career Counselor for the College of Liberal Arts Career Center.
Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. I'm really excited that you all are here. I'm going to just talk for a few minutes about the services that we offer in CLA Career Services and how you can engage with our office. So we can help with anything related to your career development for current students and alumni up to 1 year post-graduation. If you think of anything related to your career, whether you're exploring majors and careers or need help with like an upcoming interview or how to network with people or a resume review, all of that and more is what we help with. We want to make sure that you're successful in your career post-graduation, and that includes working with you throughout your entire 4 or 5 years here as an undergraduate. So as you think about ways to engage with our office, you know, wherever you're at, even if you're not sure of what questions to ask, there are several ways for you to engage. We offer internship scholarships. We have companies come to campus to do info sessions and on-campus interviews. We do networking events. We just had a career fair last week. We do major and career-specific offerings. We do personal statement reviews if you're thinking about graduate school. We offer several career courses. There's lots of different ways to engage with our office in addition to making an individual appointment. So on the right-hand side, I included some information for if you want to sit down and meet with a career counselor for an hour for current students and alumni up to 1 year post-graduation. Or you can visit during drop-in hours, which are Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, where you could sit down with a peer advisor and get your resume reviewed. And then Gold Pass is available to you as well for internship and job postings, as well as upcoming events.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. Are there any questions from our participants today about the services that the Career Center at CLA offers? No questions. Okay, we will move on, but feel free to come back to any questions that you have at any point and just type them into the chat function. And now I'd like to introduce Betsy Madden, the Senior International Counselor at the International Student Scholar Services Office.
Hi. Like Amy, I'm going to give you an overview of the services that we offer in ISSS. A lot of you have probably already been in touch with us in one way or another, but just as a reminder or maybe some new information to you about the things that we offer. So regarding your career search, we provide work authorization advice, information, and documents for all of the F1 and J1 students who come to the university. That includes OPT, CPT. If you're a J1, it includes your academic training as well. We also are kind of a baseline coach. We're kind of like an introductory coach to you for understanding work authorization and also how to address your visa status to potential employers. That can be a tricky question and a tricky way to discuss with employers, and we help you to kind of talk through that and feel more comfortable when you're talking to employers. We also talk about the U.S. cultural expectations of the job search, resume writing, and job interviews, and how it might be different from what your parents expect, or might be different from what you know in your home country. And finally, we do like what we're doing today. We collaborate with CLA and other college career services to support your career search. So how do we do that? We offer walk-in advising every afternoon from 1:30 until 4 o'clock. You don't have to have an appointment. You just walk in and you can meet with any of our F or J advisors. You can also call to make an appointment if you need to meet in the morning or if you want to meet a specific advisor. For F1 students, we also offer CPT and OPT online workshops, and those are required. You have to show evidence that you took it before you can apply. And then, of course, our website offers a lot of information about F1, J1 work options and general career support. So for anybody who's going to be graduating in December this year, if you're thinking about doing OPT in the United States, you should be applying for OPT now. And we can help to guide you through that, but probably the best place to start is that OPT online workshop. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Betsy. Are there any questions at this time from the participants for Betsy in ISSS? I don't see any questions right now, so we will move on, but feel free to ask your questions for either Betsy or Amy at any time. All right. So now we are going to introduce our panelists. So we have, first of all, Corinne Min Ling Teo, who graduated with a bachelor's in psychology in December of 2015. She is originally from Malaysia, and she's moved back there, and she's currently an associate consultant in Michael Page, Malaysia, which brings the world's best employers and brightest professionals together in the emerging markets. And she particularly supports their business in Vietnam. On a daily basis, she builds relationships with clients across sectors, screens resumes, conducts interviews, and qualifies potential candidates for specific roles and positions. And we also have Yuefan Wang, who is a financial analyst at Perforce Software in the Twin Cities. He completed his degree at the College of Liberal Arts in 2016 in economics and statistics with a minor in mathematics. His current position responsibilities include month-end process, financial report for operation purposes, bank and investment partner review, acquisition due diligence, budgeting, and sourcing data management. And we also have Chikako Yanagiba, who is a junior researcher at the University of Minnesota Department of Surgery here on campus, and she graduated very recently in 2017 with a bachelor's in biology, society, and environment. So welcome to our panelists. Before we go any further, we'd also like to ask the audience a couple of questions to find out more about who's listening so that we can gear our presentation today and the panelists can gear their answers towards you guys. So I'm going to launch some polls that I'm going to ask you to participate in. And they will pop up on your screen, and I'll give you a few moments to respond. Give you guys another few seconds to respond. All right, and now I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So we have 22% who have already graduated and 78% who are still studying. All right, and the next question will pop up. If you've already graduated, which best describes your employment status? All right, I'm going to close the poll in just a second here, so if you haven't voted and this applies to you, please do so. Okay, so 50% said I'm currently searching for jobs and 50% said I'm currently employed in a job. And the next poll is, if you are still studying, which best describes your employment status? I think more people are in this category, so we'll have a more robust response to this one. Okay, I'm going to close the poll in just a second. Last chance to vote. All right. So 33% said I'm looking for advice, not currently looking for jobs. 50% said I'm currently searching for internships. And 17% said I'm currently employed in an internship. And 0% said I'm currently searching for jobs. So it sounds like quite a few of you are searching for internships right now and also just looking for general advice for future job searching. And finally, we have one last question for the audience. What do you feel is your biggest barrier in your job or internship search? All right, we'll give you a few more seconds to respond. All right. So we had 17% respond with I'm unsure how to network, and the majority, 67%, said I'm afraid U.S. companies don't want to hire an international student. And then 17% said it's overwhelming and I don't know where to start. Well, thank you all for sharing where you're at in the process, and we hope that the panelists and all of us are going to be helpful for you today in knowing the next steps and what might be possible. All right. So now we're going to move into the section where the panelists are going to answer some questions. So we have some questions for them now to get them started and to get the discussion going. But we also invite each of you to use the chat function to ask questions. You simply type in your question and hit enter, and that will display here just for us, the organizers. And then we will grab those questions and put them to the panelists. So our first panelist question is, what did you do during your job search and interviewing process that helped you to get hired? So we'll have our panelists chime in here. Panelists, please make sure that you're not muted. I see that one of you is muted.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, I can only hear you, Audra. Okay, this is Karine speaking. What I really did during my job search, I'm going to split this into two so it's easier for you to understand. So for the job search process, what really helped was building and optimizing my network and connections. So you can do this both ways, through people or through LinkedIn, which I think is really, really helpful, even for now. So through people, I really spoke to the career advisors over in the CLA. And then through that, I get to speak with a lot of different people working in different places, trying to figure out what matches my passion as well as my career direction. And then in the end, I actually landed a job in Minnesota Management and Budget, previously in Minnesota. So that really helped me building connections through people. The other part is through LinkedIn, and that is when I got back to Malaysia. So what I did was I looked up existing connections that are working in the current company that employed me. So searching up on, your past colleagues, your friends, or other connections that are working in a company that you would like to work in. Reach out, don't be afraid to ask, inquire about how the work culture is like, and everything else, and then it's very likely that they would refer you or put your CV forward to the director, which will ultimately help you to land a job. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much. And Chicago, how about you? What did you do during your job search and interviewing process that helped you get hired? You probably have a little bit different experience since you're working on campus here. Oh, I see that you're muted, Chicago. Can you click on your microphone on your screen and unmute yourself? You may be speaking, but we can't hear you. Okay, I see you're not muted any longer.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Okay, cool.
Thank
Hi,
you.
I'm Chaco. Yeah, my job search is probably really different from Korean because I initially knew that I wanted to become a researcher at the U. So I mainly focused on connecting with the professors on campus, like the classes that I took. I definitely found that the professors have a lot of connections or like aware of what other professors are researching or whether they're finding undergrad students to assist in their labs. So I would definitely be really close to your professors and communicate with them often if you want to know anything that you might be interested in research or job opportunities in general. For the interviewing process, well, what I did to make myself a good candidate was I first was a volunteer at the lab that I'm currently working in, and because I showed that I was passionate about what we were researching on and that I was committed to being part of it, it convinced my employer that I was a good candidate to be part of the lab. And yeah, it's also a good opportunity for yourself to have some experience in the area that you want to research in. So yeah, I think that's how I got my job.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Chicago. And now I'm going to ask Yuefan to share his experience. Yuefan, what did you do during the job search process and interviewing process that helped you to get hired?
Well, I lost my connection a little bit, so sorry if I missed something important.
No, you're fine. You got back on right in time. Thank you so much.
That's
Technical
perfect.
difficulties early in the morning.
Yeah, so I guess my computer is not waked up, so Yeah, kind of like me. Something I did, I think it's important to know is I expect it's going to be very hard to get a job. So I have a pretty low expectation and just have the mindset that I'm going to get a lot of rejections. So something I did was in my last semester, I kind of applied at least 150 jobs like in 2 months. And so
Wow, that's a lot.
yeah, I applied a lot of jobs, and because I know the fact it's gonna be hard, so I just want my name to get out there. So that's something I did. Probably it's a little bit different from a lot of people. And at the end, I got like 5 interviews, or like the rate is like I don't know, like less than, it's like 3%. So I mean, because the acceptance rate is so low, you're just gonna apply more jobs. So that's kind of my experience. And another thing, help me at the interview is like, it's like I have a lot of things to say at my interview. It's even a class I taught, a conversation I had with my professor, and just my past experience, my involvement at the U. So you actually have a lot to talk about with the employer at the interview. So I think those kind of small things help me out. And the last thing I think is quite important is like read your job description you're applying for. So you know what they expect you to do, and you know what kind of quality they're looking for. So you can, you can get ready for the interview.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like you're really telling us it's a numbers game, and you have to put a lot of time and work into getting your applications out there, and having several interviews and doing your research about those companies before you go into interview. So thank you so much. And it sounds like we have a question from one of our participants.
Yeah, there's a question. I think it's for Chicago. The question is, if you're into research, why don't you just go and apply to graduate school?
So technically, I am doing my OPT right now, which allows me to work a year in the U.S. It's also, for me, it's part of a gap year. I'm definitely thinking about going to grad school, but for now, for my own experience, I wanted to have like just experience in research, I guess, because I know that it'll be different once I start taking classes. Right now, I'm actively taking part in projects, and so I think that experience will be different if I were to start grad school. So for me, I see this as a good experience. So yeah, that's why I didn't immediately go or apply to grad school.
And it sounds like it'll be a great thing to put on your resume for your grad school application.
Right. Yeah, I believe so too.
And it'll help you be sure that's what you'd like to do as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. It gives me time to really consider if this is what I want to do or if there's any other thing that I want to do. But yeah, right now I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next question we have for our panel is, what do you wish you had done differently as you prepared to search for a job?
Okay, should I go
Yeah,
first?
well, I can. Yeah, I can start that question, I guess. Yeah. I guess one thing I feel it's very necessary is like start to build your resume early, and that's something I wish I could have done differently, because I literally wrote my first resume at the end of my junior year, and start to apply like internship at the beginning of the senior year. So I really wish I could have started that process way earlier. Maybe the beginning of the junior year to start up my resume and just build up through the year and then constantly updating it, and then probably start my internship search earlier. So one experience I had, it was like there's a internship program sponsored by the U. It's called the internship program. So there was a deadline back in like August, like 30 or 30 around that time. So I finished my application in 4 hours right before the deadline. So that was a hustle, and the application was pretty low quality, I guess, and I didn't get in. So and the next time I took my time to reevaluate my situation, went to a couple of sessions with Amy to improve my resume, and I just took my time to write application. So I got in that program in the second semester. So that's something I wish I could have done differently. So just start earlier, like job searching or like resume building in your college year, I guess.
That's a very good point, Yuefan. It's never too early to start. We didn't poll our participants on what year they are in school, but for those who have time, start now. Mm-hmm. And Kareem, you were going to mention something as well.
Right, yes. I was just going to say that one thing that I wish I had done differently was to take a little bit more time to really research and find what you want to do in the future. Because I think for a lot of us, when you graduated, you feel like, okay, I've completed one important part of my life. It's now on to the other important thing, which is, getting a job, securing a career, earning more money and all. But sometimes it's good to take some time off and really do some research and also try out different things and really see if that's what your passion is. So when you get into that career or job, you really enjoy what you're doing, and you would never regret it. Yep.
That's good advice as well. Thank you, Kareen. People have so many different careers these days. There's not a problem with switching and trying out lots of things. Chicago, how about you? Is there anything you wish you had done differently in your job search preparation?
So I agree with Kareen and Yuefan about starting early and building your resume. So I basically did the same thing. I just kind of built on my resume, probably starting from my sophomore year. But I think I was so focused on trying to show that I was a good candidate. Like I can do a lot of things, but I was so focused on that aspect, I didn't evaluate myself as a whole. So I wish it's basically the same thing as applying for like a college application. But I guess I wish I kind of sat down and just thought about my strong points and my weak points. I think that was definitely a disadvantage when I was doing my interview, because there were some questions that I felt like I didn't answer confidently enough about, like, what are your weaknesses and what can you do to overcome them. So yeah, I think that's one part that I felt like I should have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very popular interview question. What are your weaknesses and how can you get beyond those? So that's a good point to be thinking about that and having a well planned out answer. Thank you, Chicago. Are there any questions from the participants? Please feel free to type questions into the chat at any point, and we'll answer those, or we'll have them answered by the panelists. All right, if there are no other questions right now, the next question that we have for the panelists are to reflect on your career journey so far. What were the key steps you took to get to where you are now? Yuefan, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, sure. I thought I lost connection again.
Oh, well, we still have you. That's great.
Okay. Yeah, so I totally agree with what Corinne said. Just take some time to find what you're passionate about and what you really want to do like for job. Something I feel I was extremely lucky was like I realized I'm pretty good at with numbers, have a pretty strong analytical skill. So that's why I picked the major like statistics and economics, and I was pretty sure I wanted to be analyst, like business analyst. Like right now I do financial analyst, those kind of analytical kind of job. So that's why I think I was more focused on that direction when I was doing job search and just like resume preparation. Those kind of stuff. So I think make clear of your direction. That's something I did was a key step for me. And I guess another thing was the internship I mentioned provided by the U. There's a program called internship. There's around like 40 position or internship position open each semester. I think there's 8 of them is reserved for CLA students. So I think that's a big, like, and a very nice opportunity for you. You don't have to go through a lot of job search. You just need to submit an application, and if you get in, you're guaranteed to get an internship. And I think a lot of my friends who kind of struggle of finding a job, which they all have a higher degree than me, but they kind of lack of working experience. I think that internship definitely helped me a lot to find a job. So that's the second kind of key step. And the third one is just utilize a lot of resource on campus, like career center. As I mentioned, I met with a couple career advisor from CLA Career Center, Amy, Laura. They all helped me to get ready for interview for my resume. And also I had a pretty good relationship with my major career advisor, Barbara, and she helped me to figure out what kind of job I want to apply and what kind of job search strategy. And also she recommended me to that program. So I think she definitely helped me to get that internship. And also just a lot of students group, I was part of the statistics club, so we had a data competition, a small project we did together that was helpful. One was interview with my company to just talk about my past experience, and also just keep a good relationship with TA, professor, and because they always have some project, always have some opportunity, and one thing I feel very lucky was I had a pretty good relationship with my econ class TA, and at the end of the summer, he had a project, research project. He was looking for help, so he reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to volunteer at my lab to do some stuff?" I was really happy to accept it. So just keep those relationships and maintain them well, and you never know, what opportunity will come out of it. So that's kind of a couple key steps I took to help get where I am now.
Those are really good points, Yuefan. The University of Minnesota is a big institution, and it's easy to just kind of float through without talking to some of those key people. But one of the benefits of being at a big school like ours is there are so many resources for you to utilize, but keeping in mind that you need to step up and out of your comfort zone at times maybe and utilize those to get the most out of your experience and your time here. And it sounds like you've really done that. Thank you for sharing. And I think we have a question.
Right. We have a question for you, Yuefan. The question is, which website did you use for job seeking other than GoldPass?
That's a very good question. I use the Indeed a lot because it just have a functionality that you can have a one click to submit your resume. And another website I feel very nice to go is the Glassdoor. Basically, it has a lot of information about a company, and they also post some position on Glassdoor as well. So another thing is linking as well. So they have a paid feature called like job searching or whatever. I never tried that, but they have like a 1 month or 2 month free trial for that one. So I think it's pretty useful because you can directly message the recruiter and just trying to find your alumni and network with them. And yeah, I think those sites definitely help me. And also, last but not least, GoPass. It's an extremely useful website to go because that's how I find my job.
Great, thank you for sharing. If there aren't any other questions from our participants at the moment, I'll just ask Corrine to reflect on her career journey so far and share with us the key steps that she took to get to where she is now.
Okay. So for me, I think it's a lot of really being sociable and network and be out there. A lot of the things that University of Minnesota offers during my study there was that we had a lot of networking events with employers and also alumni. So I strongly suggest attending those because those are people that has been in your shoes, that has studied in the University of Minnesota and has gone through the entire job search progress as well. So really attend those different events. And one that I find really useful when I start my job search back in the US for an OPT was the practice interview session. What they do is they would actually bring in a real interviewer from a company out there and go through the entire interview process with you, and after that they would fill in a form and give you a feedback on how you did in the interview, what are some things that you did well, and what are some things that you should improve on. So I think that really helped me because it gives you a platform to practice how was it like being in a real interview, so you could improve yourself better. So that really helped me. And for me, I think very similarly to Yuefan, I kind of found out what's my strength and passion early on. I knew that I'm a more people person, not so much on numbers and analytics like Yuefan, but more on social people skills and communication. And I always knew that I wanted a career in HR. So I kind of just put my head into that and really just look for jobs and be focused on the things that you should do to succeed as an HR professional. So I think that really helped get me to where I am right now, being a recruiter, and I really enjoyed it. Yep.
Great, those are really good points as well, Corrine. Thank you for sharing. Sounds like you've taken advantage of some great resources here on campus as well. So Shikako, can you reflect on your career journey so far and tell us about the key steps you took to get to where you are now?
I agree with Green and Yuefan about the whole connecting with people. I personally am a very social, awkward person, I think, but just the fact that I knew that it was important to just get out of my comfort zone and to interact with people in the field that I'm interested in. I was in student groups and I went to business events. I also volunteer. But yeah, it's just like constantly doing things that are new to you. I think from there, it made me spark an interest in research, spark an interest in the field that I'm researching in right now. I think also what I really like about being here at the U is that there's so many research opportunities. Like, it's just like this whole research facility. But I think it's like it's impossible not to find places that want help, that want volunteers or interns or just assistants at the U, because there's just so many facilities. So I think it's just being able to find the one that you want to be part of in, and like to show that you're committed. And for me, I think it helped for me to volunteer at the lab that I'm working in for 2 years to show that, like, yes, I really want to do this. So just like showing the commitment and that you're willing to, really be part of it, it made me feel like I think I'm a good candidate, and that proved to my employers that I also would be a good asset to the research team. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Chicago. Yeah, it sounds like you took advantage of some of those opportunities here on campus, and I think volunteering can be an important step, and it's a resume builder. Even if you feel like, oh, I don't want to work for free, it's really something that you can put on your resume and provides you a lot of experience, and might even help you get your foot in the door like it did for you. So thank you for sharing that. And it looks like we have a question from one of our participants.
Yeah, the question is, how many people on average should one connect with in a company that they're interested in? And I wonder if maybe our fellow organizer, Amy Barton, can answer this question.
Yeah, I can answer this briefly. So I think there's not necessarily a sweet spot number of how many people you would want to connect with, but what I would recommend is be strategic with who you connect with. So really taking the time to reflect on not only who you are and what your values, interests, personality, skills, strengths, like who you are to the core, but also take some time to research the organization as well. So what function would you want to work in, and then who would be those appropriate people to connect with. So depending on the size of the company and the type, it might only be 1 or 2. If it's a really large company and there's several functional areas, it might be several people. So it really depends. But I think the bigger take-home point would be to be strategic with who you're connecting with in each company.
Great. Are there any other questions from our participants today? You can use the chat function to type in your questions.
We have one more question. The question is, since international students have a sponsorship limitation, what do you think, how do you make yourself one of the most competent candidates to overcome this restraint? I'll answer this question from the ISSS perspective. I don't see it as a limitation, and I tell students to not introduce themselves as an international student from X country. You always want to introduce yourself as a University of Minnesota student. I'm studying what major, and talk about the kinds of experiences that make you a really qualified candidate for the position you're interested in. Sponsorship will come up at some point, visa sponsorship. But for all of our F1 students, you get you can do internships, which don't require visa sponsorship, and you get at least 1 year of post-graduation work authorization with no sponsorship necessary from the employer. A lot of American students, American graduates, leave their first job within that first year. And that retraining is very expensive for a company. So if you can show to a company that you are not only a valuable employee, but you're worth investing just a little bit more money in the visa sponsorship, that will help you look better than other candidates. You've also got a lot of adaptability, because you've had to come to the United States from another country, another culture, a different educational system, and you've had to not only learn how it works, but you've had to succeed here. So that kind of adaptability is really valuable for a company. And there are a lot of companies that might want to start you out in, say, their office abroad, and then perhaps at some point later they might want to transfer you back to the United States. So be open to different kinds of possibilities for working with a company. It might not be their Minneapolis headquarters to start out. It might be headquarters somewhere else, or it might be a field office somewhere else. So you also should be open to different kinds of working opportunities.
That's great, Betsy. Thanks so much for sharing. And I think our international students here can have confidence that they've been well prepared by the university, and that by being accepted into our institution, they are already exceptional, and they just need to remember that and talk about those points and things that they've learned and their great diverse experiences and their adaptability, like you said, Betsy. That's a really strong point, and something that not every candidate being from the U.S. would necessarily have. So you're special. All right, are there any other questions from our participants?
One question we have is, how would you research jobs efficiently?
So maybe our panelists can chime in on this.
Looks like Yuefan is ready to answer.
Yeah, I think so. One thing you probably should do is just like aim on the direction you want to go, right? So if you want to do HR job, you don't want to waste time searching for engineering job, and also just scanning through a job description that's very useful. Just highlights the key quality they are looking for. I think that's very useful.
Would any of the other panelists like to add to that? Looks like no, which is just fine. That was a good answer, Yuefan. Are there any other questions from our participants?
I can add on to that research question too. So in addition to looking, like Yuefan said, look at the job description, highlight those keywords, those buzzwords, those repeated words. Those are all things that are going to give you good insights into the job. But you can also look at the company overall. So Glassdoor was mentioned earlier. That's a great resource for researching companies and positions. LinkedIn is a great resource as well. You can tap into the alumni network that's on LinkedIn and connect with people in that company to learn some insider information into that company as well. In addition to other tools that you could use, Gold Pass is a good resource for learning about different things. And you know, there's several other ways that you could as well. So Career Services is here to support in that too, if you want to get creative about how to research jobs.
I also think our panelists have given some really helpful insights about knowing yourself and knowing what your skills and what your interests are. And that helps you to be more selective and more efficient in your job searching. So like Yuefan said, he knew that he was really good in math and statistics and numbers. And so he wasn't going to look for the human resources jobs. He was going to look for more of the business analysts and the financial analyst types of jobs. So know yourself. I think Career Services provides all kinds of surveys and tests that you can take if you're not quite sure how to do that personal exploration for what kinds of skills you have. So I think that those are some really good tips too.
Great.
Well, another thing I kind of want to add when I think about it is like actually there's a there's a lot of company out there. It's like staffing agency. They are out there just trying to look for the candidate to send it to their clients to fill out their temporary position. So a lot of them are contract based. They don't necessarily give you sponsorship, but if you are just looking for some working experience at the US, I think that's a good resource to go because it's their job to find you a job. So I think this might be another resource you can utilize outside of the campus.
You do have to be careful with the staffing agencies because if you're working on OPT, you have to make sure the job is in your major. And so staffing agencies sometimes just want to plug you into a job. So just keep that in mind. They're not going to be worried about whether you're working in your major. That's your job to look at that.
That's a good point. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any other questions from the participants? All right, well, we're getting close to the end here, so if any of the panelists would like to share a final thought, I'm going to invite them to do that now, and then we will get this wrapped up. Okay, well, I think they've shared a lot of valuable thoughts, so we will get this wrapped up. So thank you to our panelists. It's been just wonderful having you online with us this morning. Thank you for sharing your experience and your insights. And I also want to thank Amy from CLA Career Services and Betsy from ISSS. It's been delightful working with you to put this together for our current international students and recent alumni. So, all right. Well, I'd like to share, we have some upcoming webinars. These are just a few topics that are coming up in the next couple months, and students and alumni are welcome to join these. They're at umnalumni.org/virtual. They're free. You can log on just like today from wherever you are. And I'd also like to mention and reinforce the point that Amy and Yuefan made about getting connected on LinkedIn. We do have an overall alumni network. It's University of Minnesota Alumni Association, so it's a group on LinkedIn. It's a valuable resource. There's thousands and thousands of other alumni there. So if you're researching a company and maybe you want to know, are there some alumni working there, that is a really good place to start looking and start networking and maybe reaching out and just asking for an informational interview via LinkedIn. We also have an international alumni network on LinkedIn. So it's University of Minnesota International Alumni. And we have close to 1,000 people on that. So those might be people who you could connect with who have been in the situation that you are in now, just like our 3 panelists today. So wanted to make everyone aware of those resources. And in closing, members of the University of Minnesota Alumni Association make initiatives like this webinar series possible, so thank you to them. This is the conclusion of today's webinar. Thank you again to our panelists for sharing their experience and to CLA and ISSS for partnering with the UMAA on this webinar. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for attending.